Hello all of you. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in the previous video, we have started with the chapter called as exception. So we have covered four types of exception. Those are predefined exception, that is no data found, too many values, zero divide, and invalid cursor. So in this video, we'll start with the next four types of cursor, that is cursor already open, invalid number, value error, and others. So let's start with the cursor number exception number 5, that is cursor already open. So let me explain you in detail about what actually this cursor already open means. So when you are trying to close or when you are trying to reopen the cursor, when we are trying to reopen the cursor without closing the cursor, then Oracle server will throw an error. So this error or exception we have to handle. So let me take an example of simple block of code without handling the exception. So in declare section, I am using cursor C1 is select star from EMP. I am fetching all the records in C1. Then variable of I data type, C1 percentage row type is variable attitude. I am using for I variable. Begin open C1. So cursor is open. Then loop fetch C1 into I. DBMS underscore output. I am printing I.enum. So all the I.enum will be printed. And exit this loop when C1 percentage not found. So when data is finished, then the loop should be exited. So end loop and end. So if I run this block of code, you will see the output like all the enums will be printed. You will see all the enums are printed. Now let me make a change, simple change. So what I am doing here, once again I am trying once again I am trying this, or I am opening the cursor before end block. Say what I am doing here, I am opening the cursor once again before closing the cursor. Now let's see what the error will take place. So if I execute this code when I'm reopening the cursor, so you will see the error that cursor already open. So you will see the error. So error report over here you will see here cursor already open. So already cursor is open and we are trying to reopen the cursor. So when this type of exception is going to take place, we have to handle the exception under the exception section of name, that is cursor already open. So this is the type of next exception, that is cursor already open. So let's try to handle this exception by using exception block. So with exception handling, let's see the stuff. So again, all this block of code is same as it is, which we saw in the previous case. All the stuff is same. Say again, once again, I'm opening the cursor so that error will occur. Now this error, when the error will occur, it will move into exception section and it will search for this type of exception. That is when cursor already open. Then you have to print this statement, that is cursor already open, and end the block. So if I run this code, you will see the exception will raise, and this exception will be handled by the exception section, and this line will be printed, that is cursor already open. So if I run this block of code, you will see the output that cursor already open. So let me run once again. You will see the cursor already open. So like this, we can handle the type of exception, that is when cursor is already open. Now let's move on to the next type, value error. So what is this value error? Now, in which case the value error may arise, let me explain you. So when you are trying to fetch, or when you're trying to store large amount of data than the specified data type size in variable declaration, then the error or exception will rise, that is value error exception. So let me explain you with the help of example. Now I am taking without handling exception block. So you will see here declare. So A I am declaring as a variable number of size 3. So A is of number data type who can take the size of 3. Begin. Now see the value assigned for the A value. So A is assigned with the size 4. Already the size of A is 3, but I am assigning value with size 3. So you will see you can count the numbers. Then dbms underscore output underscore line, I am trying to print A value. Now in this case, the exception may rise. In this case, the exception may rise that value error. So let's try to run the code. You will see the error, that is numeric or value error. So number precision too large. So it is not trying to store the value which is more than this size. So in the declare section, we are declaring the size 3, and if you are trying to store value more than this size, then this type of error is going to take place. That is value error. Now let's handle this section or exception in the exception section. So I have taken next section, that is with exception handling. So declare, again age declare, same example I have taken, or let's handle the exception in this block. So I have commented this exception section. So let's uncomment this. Now what I'm doing here, simply I'm adding the exception section. So up to this or up to this point, the exception or error will take place. But when I'm adding the exception section, the control will move to the exception section and it will search for the value error exception. So when value error, then print this line, value too large than the size. So this should be the output. So when I try to run this code, the abnormal termination of code should not take place, and it should successfully handle the exception into this exception section, and it should print value too large than the size. So if I run this code, you will see the message that value is too large than the size. So likewise, this type of exception is handled. Now let's take another example. So again, I'm taking a as a variable, but this is of size, this is of data type varchar2 of size 3. Begin, and again I'm assigning the value for a, B, C, D, which is of size 4. Means it is not possible to store into this variable which is of size 3. So the size is less, but the value assigned is more than the desired size. So that's why again it will be through error, that is value error. So this type of error is going to occur. So again, this type of error will be handled into the exception section. When value error, then print this line, that is value too large than the size. So again, if I run this code, you will see the same output, that is value too large than the size. So I hope this part is pretty much clear about the next type of exception, that was value error. Now let's move on to the next type of exception, that is invalid number. So what does this invalid number states? That when the PLSQL block contains the SQL statements, and also if you are trying to convert string type to the number data type, when you are trying to convert string type to the number data type or number type, then Oracle server will return an error, like it will throw an error as invalid number. So when we are trying to convert the string to the number type, then this type of exception or error will occur. So let's take a simple example. Begin block, insert into emp1. So employee one table is there, and employee number is of number data type, e name is of varchar2 data type. Values, so I am trying to add values into these two columns. So employee number, again this is employee number of number data type, but I am trying to store string, as this is added into the single inverted commas, it will be taken as a string or character. And ename, by default ename is of varchar2 data type, so qqq is a character, so it will successfully store into this ename. But employee number, into this employee number we can't store this string, so again it will throw an error, that is invalid number. So let us comment this exception section. So first I will show you, before handling this exception, what the error is going to come. So if I run this code, if I try to insert into the emp1, you will see the error report, that is invalid number. So let's handle this exception. Now you will see here the exception in the exception section. So I'm handling the exception. So you will see the exception type is when invalid number, then print this statement, that is invalid error, insert number into the emp number column. So if I run this code, you will see the statement as value error, insert number into employee number column. So in the employee number column, we are trying to insert the string. That's why the error or the message is shown that value error, insert number into the employee number column. So I hope this seventh type of exception is pretty much clear about invalid number. Now last type of exception is others. So this others exception means we can say by using others exception we can handle all the above seven types of exception in this single other exception. So we can say that this will be the parent exception for all the seven types of exceptions. So if at all any above seven exceptions are taking place, we can handle by single exception called as others. So this can be applied for all types of above exceptions. So let's explain in detail. Let's learn in detail about other exception. So first we'll learn about if the invalid exception is taking place. So invalid exception or invalid number exception is taking place. So how the exception will be handled? Already we have covered invalid number. So begin section. Again, I have taken the same block of code which we discussed now in the above section. So begin insert into EMP1 employee number, ename, Q. So this is both these two both are the strings. So again in the exception section simply I am writing others. Instead of writing the specific type of exception that is invalid number, I am writing others. So when others, then dbms underscore output, you have to print this line. So let's run this code. Let's check whether it is handling the exception or not. Yes, so the handle exception is handled successfully. So value error, insert number into emp number column. Now next, let's see for value error. Now this we have learned about invalid number. So invalid number is successfully handled by the others exception. Or next, if the value error is taking place, let's see whether it is taking whether the others is handling or not. So again declare a varchar to begin. In a I am storing the size greater than the declared size, that is 3. So the size declared is 3 but I am storing the data of size 4. So again the exception will raise, that is value error. So in the exception section I am writing when others, then print this statement. So let's run this code. Yes, so again this exception is handled successfully by the others exception. Now next, similarly we'll see about the zero divide exception. So again the zero divide exception can be handled by the others exception. So about the above code is same as we discussed in the zero divide exception type. So a 10, b is of value 0, c. So for the c I am doing a by b, means a divided by means 10 divided by 0. So if I am dividing 10 by 0, the zero divide exception may raise. So in the exception section I am writing simply others exception, that is the parent of all. So by others this exception can be handled. So divide by 0 is not possible. So if I run this code, you see the output as 0. Divide by 0 is not possible. So likewise for too many values. So if at all too many values are returned by the select statement, that is declare v underscore ename, select ename into v underscore ename, means this statement will return too many values. As I told you, select into clause will return only single value, but in this case the select into clause is returning too many values because in emp1 table uh, more than one records are present. So that's why ename will return more than one record and the exception will raise, that is too many rows. So exception when others. So I'm using again parent exception, that is others. Then I'm printing this statement. So if I run this block of code, again the statement will be fired, that is too many values returning. Likewise, you can check for the no data found exception. So again, if salary is not present for the desired employee number, if I'm trying to fetch this employee number, if I'm trying to pass this employee number and if this employee number is not present into the table, then no data found exception may raise. This exception can be handled by the no data found exception, also by the others exception. So let's write here others, means it will be handled by the parent exception. So let me compile this procedure first. Yes, procedure compiled successfully. Now let's execute. Now this 79022 is not present into this table, then it will throw an error, that is no data found. So again if I run this code, no data found of entered employee number means it is returning to the this exception block, that is when others, then dbms underscore output, that is no data found of the entered employee number means the entered employee number which I am passing as a parameter, that is 79022 is employee number. It will come here, and from here it will be passed to the where clause, that is where employee number is equal to this particular employee number. When select statement will search for this employee number, it will this employee number will not be available in the into the table. So the exception will raise, which will be handled into the exception section, that is parent exception, that is others. So others will handle this exception. So I hope these all different types of exceptions are pretty much clear. So we have learned all types of exception. Those are 8 types of exception. Those are predefined exception. So in the previous video, we'll move or we'll learn in detail about exceptions. So that's all for this video. So if you found this information pretty well, please do subscribe my channel and press the bell icon for such amazing videos. So thank you all and have a wonderful day ahead.